Welcome back to Comic Book Nation, the only show that does it all for geek culture and the official podcast of comicbook.com. I am your host, Kofi Outlaw, and with me today is my longtime co-host, Matthew Aguilar. What's up, buddy? And this week, our girl, Janelle Wheeler, is out. She's taken a much-deserved mommy break and just letting her hair down and relax on a Friday because she's been juggling a lot to come on here every Friday, and so she deserves a break. So we love you, Jay. Take a break. Have a good Labor Day weekend, and so that leaves us here in charge of the shop, which, could always go sideways when it's just me and Matt. You never know where the grenades are going to be. You never know how this thing could break down, but we're going to start off strong right here. We're unified at the start here. So we got some fun things to talk about today. A little preview of what we're going to be talking about on the show. We're getting into the new Terminator anime, Terminator Zero, over on Netflix. It's out. We've got to talk about it. We are going to touch a little bit on the Rings of Power, but we don't need to go too deep because we already did a whole bonus episode. Our new show, The One Recap, launched this week. And so you can go check out our full thoughts on the first 3 episodes of Rings of Power over there. But of course, this is a live show. You guys, the fans, are with us on Fridays. So we'll talk about it a little bit. Up in geek news, we got to talk about that Fantastic Four image that came out this week, kind of making us do an about face on some of the expectations of this film. There's a new Sonic trailer out that's got my son and Matt hyped. Wide age range there, but everybody's hyped. First reactions for Beetlejuice 2 are out. And over in Matt's agenda, we got a lot to do today, including a special guest joining us to talk about wrestling. So there's big things happening in wrestling. So we are going to get into all of that. All right, right back up at the top. Matt, buddy, how you doing today?
Doing good. Big things popping. There we go. You said it. I couldn't not touch on that. Anyway, yes.
I technical note, Rich is backstage telling me that this pop in my microphone is now happening again. So we're having some technical issues with my microphone, but we're trying to fix it. We're trying to get this all worked out. But as you know, we've been through a transitional week. So yeah, we're trying to get equipment. Yeah, and all kinds of stuff sorted out. I'm using a very old computer. So I apologize in advance for the pop. We are going to be getting me on a new microphone after this, and we won't be having this problem, hopefully, anymore. But if you've heard it in recent episodes, again, just a technical note, I apologize. It's one of those things I have little control over right now. But hopefully, we will be trying to deal with that in the near future. So just bear with. And thankfully, this is going to be a big Matt Talky episode. So
I apologize in advance. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Everyone has to suffer. But no, let's start with, we talked about, was it 3 weeks ago? I think it was like 3 weeks ago when all the Alien stuff was hitting, maybe 2 weeks ago, actually. Yeah. When we were talking about like Alien, Predator.
2 weeks ago.
Was it?
No,
it was the week before, wasn't it?
Ago.
Oh my God. Everything feels like a year. It feels like so,
we're not even out of August. It was like 2 weeks ago, buddy. It's been a long road.
So when we were talking Alien and Predator and Terminator, like those franchises come up, right, as like big franchises of the era. And for me, of those 3, Terminator is kind of the top. But again, I wouldn't say like, I'm diehard on any of them. And so I kind of like go into Terminator Zero, which is like Netflix's new anime, reimagining / adaptation type thing. And I'm like, okay, I go in with an open mind. I don't have any expectations. And I know you're the much more like harder core Terminator, person, know more of the mythos and stuff than probably I do. So like, I don't know how you feel, but like I came into this and 2 episodes in, and we're not going to like, this will be non-spoiler because I know it just came out. So we won't get into like huge spoilers or anything. I'll kind of really keep my stuff to like the first 2 episodes. But like this shocked the hell out of me, like in a great way. Like I was really like taking in it's gorgeous. I think this thing is beautiful. Like they're merging of 3D and 2D animation and everything. It's just like they do so much with it in like setting the picture of the stakes of everything of what's happening, and they're playing with imagery constantly. And then you just have like the big action set pieces that have that kind of brutal edge to them. I don't know, man. This stunned me. I did not expect to be this taken with this, but I don't know. Maybe I'm off base.
This show has a particular set of skills. No, I'm just kidding. That was a taken reference. You know, we're getting into kind of some more editorial spaces where we're thinking about just doing a little more commentary in what we're doing, what we're writing. And this show has made me really kind of consider, as we talked about with Alien Romulus, whether or not movies tend to be the best lane for these properties anymore, because Alien, Predator, Terminator, these big three of sci-fi horror that I grew up with as an 80s baby, all of them have been doing pretty well in other formats. Like,
right.
Alien and Predator have been kind of exciting as comic books, or Predator with Prey doing kind of a secret, installment on streaming that was hugely successful, and taking that approach, like, surprise, new Predator movie. Predator popping out and showing us is right in line with that character and series. But Alien comics have been good. I think the gaming world would say some things about that kind of lane as well. But it's crazy that the movie struggles so much to kind of get that breakthrough success. But we're having so much fun over in these other content lanes. And Terminator Zero is, like you said, is right up there with that. Like, we have struck out throughout the entire 2010s. Yeah. Not us, but Skydance. Yeah, Skydance, they struck out. You hear that? Skydance struck out. They couldn't make a good movie. Skydance. But they struck out trying to handle Terminator. I was on set I did a set visit for Terminator Genesis. And even back then, we were like, oh man, I don't know. Because we just went in and we just started firing. I remember that so distinctly because I was with a handful of journalists, a lot of whom you probably know from Collider and Slash Film and IO9 and all these places we all know, and Screen Rant. And, I was Screen Rant, I think, back then. Okay, I don't know anymore. Yeah, of course, Comic Book didn't let me go to any set visits. What am I talking about? It was Screen Rant. So, yeah, I was there for Terminator Genesis, and even meeting Arnold, they tried to do this whole song and dance, but we just kept firing off questions like, how are you going to make this matter, after Terminator 3, after all these failed attempts to do, Terminator Salvation, like, how is this one going to matter? And they were just like, oh, well, you'll see, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, come on, man. We don't believe you. And we didn't. And we shouldn't have, because that turned out they were trying to make a trilogy out of that. Matt Smith was Sky, like, that all went down in flames. Then they got, not quite Jim Cameron back and Deadpool guy to try to do Dark Fate, and that did even worse. And so it's just been like, can we even do Terminator anymore? Has been the question. Like, of all these properties, Terminator has been the one, like, really sitting on the sideline, just stagnating, because we haven't been able to confirm that this is a viable property anymore, that people are interested, which is so crazy. Because when you think about it, like, this should be the one,
right? As
we enter an era of AI and smartphones and all this, and we haven't cracked the code on that, is crazy. This series kind of has come along and surprised me. I'm even writing an article about it right now, with the angle of story it's taking. It's very much anime. Like, the production studio for the anime production studio made sure that there was, steeped in Japanese culture. So it's set in Japan. But the story that they're going with here is the first time I've seen Terminator kind of incorporate the modern world and be like, yeah, we're not doing, this isn't 90s and we're all on like Apple II computers and dial-up modems, and Skynet is this huge thing. It's like, yeah, we got Chat GPT. We have Skynet now, like, all around us. So, like, how do you form this story in that kind of new context? But man, they are doing it. Like, there's a whole, I don't want, like Matt said, we don't want to get into spoilers. And then I don't watch trailers, so I never watch the trailers for this, but they kind of don't ignore the fact that if Skynet is a rogue AI in this time, like, we now live in a time period where it's not the only AI that's out there. And that becomes a whole new lane of intrigue for this story, because now it opens it up to the idea, and it's nailing those classic Terminator themes that Jim Cameron was kind of working with, where It's like, is Skynet just this big bad, or is there something in the view of humanity itself that will inevitably cause machines to look at us and be like, nah, son, like,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
this is bad. And this has been a major anxiety of ours in most of our fiction of the last 5 years, whether it's shows like Westworld and things like that, where we're kind of dealing with that same question. Are we even good enough to keep around, or are we so messy that any other form of life we create would look at us and be like, ooh, no, like, yeah, no. So it is very good in the philosophical and kind of thematic sense. It's doing real work. It's not just playing on Terminator imagery in an anime format, but also, as Matt alluded to, it also kind of really does nail that original Terminator movie. And arguably, it's more kind of superhero-y in the second one, but that original thriller vibe of every time there's a Terminator on a screen, you're not sure how these characters, main, supporting, anybody else is going to get out of there alive.
Right.
And the kind of chase and fight sequences, so to speak, in this are really excellent and like really well done. And they make you sit up in your seat and you're like, oh boy, there's like an opening fight sequence with a Terminator in the future that's like nuts. And like, yeah, you couldn't do that in a big budget movie. Just the things they do inside of like a missile silo and rappelling down a missile silo wall, it's just, yeah, that would be crazy for a stunt team to do. But in animation, they really get it right. And these creators are balancing perfectly between knowing like anime tropes, like how the Terminator moves and looks and does all this stuff is very much anime, but also knowing the iconography of the Terminator franchise and like what is scary, like, dark shadowy figure at your door, red eye shining through, all that kind of creepy stuff it's in here. And so, yeah, whether in the future or in the present, like the Terminators we get and how they're kind of just mowing through things is really, really scary and thrilling. And they managed to get you concerned for these characters. If not bonding to them emotionally, just you don't want to see horrible things happen to people or children or
the family, especially. I think they did a good job of that.
Yeah, definitely. And so, yeah, this is the most exciting Terminator thing that I've watched in a very long time. And yeah, I think Netflix is smart to keep dipping into these other forms of content lanes like anime for these kind of tried and true IPs, because this is better than it has any business to be. This is not like one of those Resident Evil things we get on Netflix. You know what I mean? And that's
I've had such high hopes. I've had such high hopes for those, and they're not this. Like, it's not even close.
It's not even close. So, yeah, I think Netflix needs to keep doing this, especially merging anime. I mean, it worked for that Witcher prequel very much so, and it kind of works for this. And so, yeah, they kind of nailed it. And like I said, I just was coming in being like, Matt was like planning the show. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't have nothing this week. Like, I got nothing. Like, I have no ideas. I have no spark for this podcast this week. And Matt was like, that Terminator anime. And I was like, oh, maybe. And I pressed play and I was like, okay, I'm locked in. So I think that's us both saying you should go check that out if you're a Terminator fan, because, yeah, and shout out to the Netflix marketing team for playing 4D chess, as I posted in the anime Slack channel, because they put this out right on Judgment Day. So, yeah, it was on Judgment Day, August 29th. So if you want to feel extra creepy, yeah, you can watch this and remember that and it does feel like we're only days away from possibly some weird tech apocalypse. So, yeah.
Yeah. Gives me high hopes too for, Tomb Raider's right around the corner. This isn't that, and that's another franchise that needs that kind of, alternate lane, right? While we wait for kind of the next era of games, to finish. So, man, this is Netflix doing that appointment viewing, which is in very unexpected ways, because I didn't see that on my bingo card. But of course, that's not the only thing that came out. And you guys did a huge deep dive over on the Lord of the Rings side.
Yeah. So Jamie Lovett, our kind of one of our eldest and wisest elves of comicbook.com is Jamie Lovett. And he joins me for the one recap, our Lord of the Rings of Power after show, where we kind of discussed. And we took a little bit of flack this week because we started off with a controversial question: are we bored of the rings? That's producer Peter coming up with some nice wordplay there. But yeah, and I said, I'm not. I'm still in the same place with Rings of Power, just to give you the short version. I really went back yesterday because I had to rush through the first 3 to get to the podcast recap, but I went back and kind of watched episode 2 and 3 again yesterday. And I think I nailed it in my kind of my assessment that the weird thing about this in season 2 is I feel like I've gone around the bend just to go nowhere at all. Like I'm right back at the same opinion, which is this show needs some serious tweaks to it, but it's not bad enough to throw away entirely. Like I think they just really over imagined and overspent on like how much they're covering. I think that if you just kept this to the journey of Sauron, you even made him do a Hannibal, like your central character, and him going through and, seeding corruption through Middle Earth, and just kind of dealt with major characters involved with that main storyline, this show would be a lot better. It's just trying to do so much, like with so many characters in so many places, that it's overstretched. And I don't think there's a single viewer. I think they saw Game of Thrones and they thought, oh, well, you can do this with a bunch of characters and cast. But like, you got to remember, Game of Thrones had a lot of people, but they were all doing the same thing. They were all going for the same thing. You had 2 things. Either they were on the wall trying to protect us from the big thing coming, or they were going for the Iron Throne. And that's a simple thing to keep track of in terms of motivations. This show has like 50 characters with 50 motivations doing 50 different things. And you're like, why should you only care about some of it? And so there's always this kind of halfway feeling like, I care about this scene, but I don't care about this scene. I care about this scene, but I don't care about this scene. And I think it's just too overstuffed. But that's the kind of overview. We get into a lot more of the specifics about what we're talking about on the one recap. So be sure to go to the Comic Book Nation YouTube page and check that out after this. Matt, did you check out any of those, or are you just staying out of the fray?
I haven't caught it. I am going to, but I was not.
And that's why this show's getting canceled.
I was not as taken by the first season, right? And I finished it and I was like, okay, I made it. I made it to it. Clearly, House of the Dragon is the one that caught my attention more during that time. Now, the advantage here is that it's not going right up against it. It's just not, for me, that is not appointment viewing, because that first season just didn't quite hook me. But I am going to jump in and I am going to watch those episodes because I am intrigued. I do want to, and I want to see this succeed. In the spirit of Janelle, more content. So I definitely am rooting for it. So I am going to catch up. I just have not now.
Brad Kreisen over on Facebook in the live chat. No, Arnold Schwarzenegger has nothing to do with this Terminator thing. There's no connection to the previous this series does count all the Terminator content as canon. Like it says it kind of happened. They discuss timelines and all that, but no, like none of the major cast members from the Terminator movies are part of this. So nor should they be, because it's not about them in any kind of way.
This is as much of a reboot as this is actually as much of a clear starting point as you can get. Cause I saw it's kind of mentioned in the comments a little bit while we were talking about it. And if you are kind of looking for that clean slate, this is I think as good as you can ask for. It really does not require, they fill you in on what happens. Like it does not require a bunch of knowledge about the franchise coming into it to enjoy this. But just to hype it up a little bit, just to give you some positives, the American voice cast does, you may not get Arnold, but in his place, you get Timothy Olyphant from Justified as the Terminator. You get Sonoya Mizuno, who plays the White Worm in House of the Dragon. Masaria, the White Worm, she's the main resistance soldier in this. Oh.
Malcolm Lee is actor Andre Holland from Moonlight and a bunch of other stuff. And Rosario Dawson is in here in a role I'm not going to talk to you about. You got to kind of watch it and see for yourself. But yeah, so we get some pretty big names doing voices in this. You might not get Arnold, but you get some pretty strong character actors in this. I mean, yeah. So check that out. Kind of moving on. We talked Rings of Power season 2. Oh, it's me next. Let's talk from from 3 rings to 4 family. Fantastic Four first step. That was weak. Don't just keep it moving. Just keep it. Fantastic Four first steps. We saw set photos this week because they are filming on location, not just in that studio house. So they had to come on outside. They outside this week with Fantastic Four, and we got a big revelation about actor Eben Moss Bacharach as the Thing, Ben Grimm, the Thing. We're gonna see practical effects for the Thing. We're gonna see prosthetics, makeup, all of that for the Thing. Now, this was kind of big because it was from Bacharach himself. He talked to Collider earlier this year, and they asked him, like, what do you know? Like, what's going to be your, what are they doing for the Thing? Like, what's your performance going to have to be? Are you doing the Mark Ruffalo? And he was saying, he went on this whole thing about, like, he remembered the Michael Chiklis days when they had to kind of put him in the rock suit and how crazy that looked and how we've come so far and how Marvel Studios now has that mocap system that Ruffalo uses to kind of create the Hulk, in that, yeah, he was going to be doing a lot of mocap. So we were just like, okay, we're going to get a mocap Thing. This is an interesting turn. Now, I think they're balancing the scales here. It's like a 50-50. Like, I think you use practical effects for Thing because, to me, and I wrote up the article on this, I don't know this. I'm not a Marvel insider. I don't run a Marvel podcast. We got one of those for you. If you need to go hear better thoughts about all this, check out Phase Zero. But for our part, like, I just felt like it's smart. Director Matt Shackman is smart to at least build kind of a prosthetic version of Thing for like slower scenes of dialogue, talking, interaction, so you can actually have close-ups and stuff and not worry about like that uncanny valley, right? Like, you have something solid there for those things. Now, when Ben Grimm is leaping out of a Fantastic car and screaming it's clobbering time and the action starts, like, hell yeah, you're going to see a lot of CGI layered on top of that. Like, maybe you're going to have a headpiece or whatever, but you're going to see CGI layered on top of that. And that's where we'll get the kind of motion capture stuff. I think that's very smart to do because unlike Hulk, like, Hulk has to basically be, swole Mark Ruffalo turn green, right? Yeah. That's very hard to do with facial prosthetics without looking like, you're doing like, an Elephant Man movie from the 80s. Oh, so man, you got to kind of reference. Yeah. So like, it's different with Ben Grimm in the rocky exterior. You can do that and you can actually make something convincing, because where we've come from, like, facial prosthetics mixed with animatronics and all that, like, we've come crazy far with all of that. And we have like really crazy characters that we've created with that. So I'm thinking like it'll be a smart combination of both. I know Matt was really excited about eyebrows on Thing. We've come so far, guys.
Yes, we really have. And that's the other thing too, right? Just having the prosthetics there gives us an indication of what he will look like in CG form and fully finished. That's a no pun intended. That's a fantastic looking Thing face. All right. Like, you got the big chunky, like, you're going kind of, classic Marvel with the overhang eyebrows, and that's a great look. And even the rock texture. I mean, at this point, we've had several different versions of this. And I will also say, this comes from someone who actually I really liked the look of the Thing that they did in Fantastic, the Trank one. The Josh Trank one. I actually like that Thing, like, for going so completely different from the Chiklis version. I actually thought it worked, not from a character standpoint or whatever. I'm just saying from the look, he looked cool. But this is like, if you were very much, going for that classic vintage Fantastic Four aesthetic and everything else, this makes a ton of sense. And it looks cool with the suit. and everything. This gives me, again, they really haven't made a giant misstep with the Fantastic Four approach so far. It's still super early. We haven't seen, real footage other than like previous stuff. But again, just from what they've been able to do so far, I feel more confident in this project every day. And that comes from someone who is not the biggest Fantastic Four fan, but I have more confidence in this every day. And seeing stuff like this helps.
I'm always interested to meet the people who make Fantastic Four the center of their fandom universe. It's really interesting whenever you see that. I've never seen it personally, but it is really interesting when you do see it theoretically. Chris Chipperson over on YouTube says that he hopes you can't see him, the actor inside of the mouth of thing he's talking like in those Ninja Turtle 90s movies. Yeah, that stuff is. I believe there's a man in that mouth. Yeah,
I'm so glad that movie existed before social media, because seeing how much traction that has gained now, that would have been merciless back then during the rollout. I can see him in that there mouth, and it's like, oh no, and it is nightmare fuel. Don't get me wrong. That is
it is fuel. Crazy. Yeah. But like back then, oh my God, back then our dreams were coming true. We saw live action turtles. We were losing it. We didn't want to see the man in the mouth. Our eyes, we just didn't let our eyes see that kind of thing. But there was a man in that tarnation mouth. But let's stop saying man in mouth. Okay, let's keep it moving.
Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving to another character that a character I adore. And look, we've talked a lot about the show of the Sonic franchise, and again a franchise that has been very resurgent in both games and movies over the last few years. And Sonic 3 is coming. I've been very excited for this, and now we finally get a trailer, and I even wrote it in the show notes. I cannot believe we're at a day right now where we have a Sonic the Hedgehog movie that has Idris Elba as Knuckles and Keanu Reeves as Shadow. That is bonkers to me. Like
I could not stop just marking out about that. I was like, this trailer, and I guess started hearing the voices come out. I was just like, this is so nuts.
And it looks so good. It looks so good. Shadow, and also on top of that, let's the Grandpappy Robotnik, Jim Carrey getting to play two versions of himself, and somehow that's like canon, right? Like that's actually like how it plays out in like those stories. So like it's actually really cool that yes, it's also accurate. For people who are like really sticklers about Sonic lore, but it's great too that just from you let Jim Carrey loose, he's already had so much fun playing this character, and it has shown because he's been great as Robotnik. But now you get two versions of him doing that whole Eddie Murphy thing that we've seen so many times. There's just so much to this movie that I'm so excited about, just on the like casting and external choices. And then you just see how the action plays out, and you're just getting, a blue hedgehog versus this omni-powerful, Shadow and the collision stuff. We're in a Sonic renaissance, and it just makes me happy. I see no Big the Cat. So, I mean, if there's a negative, that's the only negative. But one day, who should play Big the Cat? If we got Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves for Knuckles and Shadow, who should play Big the Cat? It's got to be Jason Momoa. I need Jason Momoa, Big the Cat. Yes, make it happen. Anyway, I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. From I remember when we first got Ugly Sonic, the images of Ugly Sonic in what it was like in the comic book offices, and how nuts we all went about that whole thing, and to see Sonic just come out of nowhere and just speed to the top of like children's live action movies, video game adaptations, and be going strong this much later and not get that much hate. Like I like these Sonic movies. My son makes me watch them endlessly, and I dig them. They're kind of funny. Jim Carrey, and having Jim Carrey back in like one of his best roles in years, like it's so nuts. But like you said, like the trailer of just hearing these two like silly cartoon animated characters like Knuckles and I forget the new character Shadow having this epic fight, and hearing Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves both so serious, like actors that are so like committed that they're not playing this like for a check. They're guys who are both going to take this seriously and are putting something into it. Like Idris Elba's commitment to Knuckles is crazy. It's
He
crazy.
is
I mean,
Knuckles to me. Like
yeah,
he
it's
is
just like,
Knuckles.
is there any reason not to love this man? Like, he's one of the best looking men on the planet. When he's not doing great acting characters, he's also just DJing and crushing it.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, man, is there any way to can we just hate this man for something? No, I don't want to. I'm just kidding. But yeah, then there's Keanu, another guy like that, who's just like, can we like have this guy not be great at something? And it's like, never mind, just let him cook. But yeah, I now need him. I now need to see this in a John Wick movie. Like, I need to see this in a John Wick movie.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Bring Idris over. Like, if you crossed over here, make the other crossover in live action. Make it John Wick. Oh my God. I'd pay money to see
like
that too.
Have a little Sonic bobblehead in the background of the fight scene, just so we can all really appreciate it, right? Like, yeah, have some fun with that. Keanu, if somebody ever, you're just near a radio that is mistakenly playing this podcast, yeah, get Idris Elba into that next John Wick project, and because we want to see you guys throw down again. We'll just really appreciate it. But yeah, the trailer was effective. I tested it out on my 6-year-old yesterday, and he is locked in. He was more freaking out. He got genuinely upset, almost started crying, because he thought that this movie was going to just come straight to Paramount Plus. And he's like, but we don't have Paramount Plus anymore. And I was like, buddy, it's okay. It's okay. It's coming to theaters. We're all right.
Oh my God. That's so funny. That's hilarious. Also, I will say, yeah, the first thing we did, I was watching the trailer and Ember saw it from my laptop and went, what? Is that Sonic? I was like, is that Knuckles? I was like, yes. Who's that? Is that Sonic's friend? I was like, oh no, he's a bad guy. It's so cool. And we just talked about this, and we've been talking about it a lot lately, but this just goes to show, to me, this is how I always feel about reboots and revivals. For the most part, there's always exceptions to the rule, but no franchise, I don't see things as dead properties. I see things as like those properties have not found the right home yet, or the right team to bring those to life,
but not dead.
Right. Dormant, because I don't see that happen. Like, that's why I always go like, oh, well, can this be, should this be? And I even asked the question, there was a lot of Jurassic World news that hit, and more is coming out. So we'll probably get to that next week. By that time, even more, maybe even a full trailer, right? Who knows, right? Yeah. But when, that again, that's like every franchise is there, every property. This was for movies and TV, this has always actually been successful in the cartoons and stuff, animated series. Comics have been running for a long time. Toys have continued to sell, games here and there. But like as a movie franchise and as other things, this was kind of looked at as a, dead property. And it's like, to see that and to see it now, it's like, no, you just need the right team, and you can mine that. And this also has special place in my heart. I was a Sega Genesis kid anyway. That was my first console. That was my first system. So Sonic holds a special place in our. I was always Sega, not Nintendo, right? So like that was very bred in me very early on. So I'm very excited about that. But all right, so let's take a quick break and then come back with even more news. Maybe some Beetlejuice.
Hey, what do we got next? Beetlejuice. Matt was clearly you were really you were liking the Wizards Beyond Waverly Place. I think that was where your
Did
heart
I link that?
was.
Did I link that?
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. Your heart was clearly in a different place when you were doing this, which we love you for that, buddy. You
that almost made it into the rundown, and then I cut it. So there you go. So my bad. I will get you.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
I'm just stalling for time as I scroll to where we actually put the first reactions in here. Blah 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 blah. Because I've been trying to avoid reading any of these really. Did we even? Oh my god, our site. Man, this is gonna be today's grenade if I don't speed past this real quick. Because
here I'll switch to I can switch real quick.
No, you're good. I'm just saying. I just think we, as I love our lovely site, I think we just didn't label this correctly. But you know what? I don't need comicbook.com. I'll do Beetlejuice 2 on Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, first reactions to Beetlejuice are now kind of out, and we are hearing, I believe, some kind of modestly good things about it. Oh my god, this computer, my whole computer froze just trying to look up Beetlejuice 2 on Rotten Tomatoes. We are living in a great era here. Yeah, and people are messaging. My god. Things are happening on your side. Man, if you guys don't think this is a live show, like, welcome to what we really deal with over here all the time. So yeah, first reactions to Beetlejuice are out, because the movie is coming up real soon here. And yeah, I think we're getting kind of, I would say kind of, what would you say, like mixed so far?
Yeah.
Mixed is a good word.
Optimistically mixed, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
optimistically mixed is a good one. Yeah. People are, but also like, this is kind of a weird one. I don't care what critics think on this one. Like, I think this is going to be kind of one of those cases. Like Beetlejuice, again, time is such a funny thing with movies, because we remember now movies that are like quote unquote classics, cult classics, but in their time, they weren't necessarily as appreciated as, you would think now. So people, like, I've seen a lot of criticisms for this one, for instance, which is like, oh, Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice isn't in it enough. And I'm like, that's kind of a weird thing to say, because if you know if you actually have watched, if you've actually watched the first one, you know that basically Michael Keaton, there's so many things happening that people won't let us just do a live show. I'm trying to ignore it all. But Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice is only on screen for a small period of time in the original. Yeah. He's not a major character like that we have. And so in this one, it's about the same. To answer superfan Damon Gray, yeah, he's in the movie for about 20 minutes. It's the same deal. And so some people are like freaking out about that. And like, it's like kind of like, okay, but that's Beetlejuice, right? And so, and other people are like, oh, the movie's a product of its time, but it's not the same. Like, of course it's a product of its time. No, I think I was writing up an interview. We have a lot of interviews with the Beetlejuice cast, and yeah, let's just say real quick, real life note. There was no controversy with that. That's all I'm going to say. If you know, you know. There was no controversy with our Beetlejuice interviews. Okay. Everything's cool. Everybody chill. But one of them was Winona Ryder kind of talking about, oh my God, I'm falling apart here. Basically that, she was talking about Lydia and Beetlejuice's relationship. And as I was writing up the article, it's like, yeah, only in the cocaine 80s could we say that a psychotic ghost, predatory targeting a teenage gothic girl with serious, mental health issues for a child bride. Of course that's a product. I can't curse on this podcast, but of course that's an effing product of its time. Where else are we going to be talking about that? You think you kids today are going to be able to handle something like that? They cancel Burton, cancel Warner Brothers, cancel Keaton. They probably cancel Winona Ryder too. So it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've seen the trailers for Beetlejuice 2, but we're still doing like weird claymation sandworms and stuff. Just trying to make this anything else than what it was. And so, like, yeah, that's going to be kind of weird. And by today's standards of movies, it better be weird like that again. That's what I'm going. This is what I'm going to see this for. I'm going to see this to get weird. And I want to see Michael Keaton get weird. I want Tim Burton to get weird again. And this is what I'm going to eat up. And Damon Grady, you nailed it on the head. I want my B movies. I was watching The Crow. If I didn't talk about this when we did our Crow review last week, but when I watched The Crow and I tweeted about my reaction about it afterwards, I was like, if nothing else, that movie made me realize, like, kind of trashy B movies are my jam, and they always have been my jam. I'm not trying to go to the movies sometimes for, like, my mind or emotions to be tested. I just want to see a crazy, kind of gnarly story with all the B movie tropes, the silly things that let me know I'm watching a film that, is imperfect. I like the perfection of imperfect films. Like, I want all of that. So if we get that again, and it's still with some meta humor, and it's the same cast, a little bit of meta humor, and you throwing in a Jenna Ortega on top of that, like, I'm going to be good. This is not going to take. And I have been clear from the beginning, expect no non-biased opinion from me on this. I have none for you. I'm going in to love it, and it's going to have to do a lot of work. Beetlejuice is going to have to steal my money, kick me in the crotch, and throw me out of a moving car onto the highway for me to basically be like, no, I didn't have fun with this movie. And if I come away from that like that, man, I'll be crushed, but I don't think it's going to be like that. So, I'm kind of trusting more of the tomatoes than the rottens in this. I mean, that's just me. Matt, you're not as biased as I am. You've made that clear. What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly. I think actually Damon put that best when it's like, this really is not a critics movie. It's a I want my freaking Beetlejuice movie, right? To not go completely there. But like, yeah, I think that's the perfect description for, number one, something like this. But also that's the charm. That's part of the charm. When you watch the trailers and things like, that's what hooked me, was that it's so bonkers, off the wall. It has this kind of otherworldly charm that you're looking for. And also the criticisms of he's not in it enough. We actually spoke about this, I think it was actually last week or the week before, where it was like they were going to kind of honor what the first one did and do that like 17 minutes of, where he's actually in it. Number one, it keeps you from overexposing a character. And because you can so easily go, he was in it too much. He overtook the movie. It's too much. Like, as much as people want something more, sometimes less is more. That is a cliche, but it's one for a reason. And so that can easily go wrong. And so I like all those. That does also speak to people like me who are more casual fans of this franchise, maybe coming in and being like, why isn't he in it the whole time? Well, that's there are some, maybe a little homework is not bad. Right. And I'm speaking directly to people like me who come in and aren't as 100% knowledgeable about things for franchises. So yeah, I think reading these reviews, even the ones that are slightly negative or kind of middling, actually highlight the things that I'm looking forward to in this movie. So they haven't deterred me one bit. And if anything, these will just kind of solidify your opinions going in. I didn't see anything here that was like, it's completely broken. It doesn't feel like Beetlejuice at all. That would make me more fearful than anything. This feels like Beetlejuice Love Island. So that's a headline that would make me go, huh? What? How does that work? So yeah, that's how I feel there. So I'm still excited. Kofi won me over on this movie throughout the course of this year. I'm very excited for this.
If there's nothing else telling, okay, so I'm reading like, okay, yeah, all right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prominent UK reviews, right, from the UK. 4 out of those 5 are the lowest reviews of this movie. Only, let's see, BBC.com, Nicholas's Barber gives it 4 out of 5. Shout out to Nicholas Barber over at BBC.com. But I think it's very telling that the high intellectualism of the UK does not care for this movie. I feel like this is going to be an American romp through and through, and I am here for it. USA, USA, USA. Let's go. Beetlejuice, our crazy. Oh, you guys, don't bring Harry Potter into this. Live chat is getting savage. Let's keep moving.
Harry
But,
Potter.
no, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care I don't care what anybody says. If I'm disappointed, I'll be disappointed. But I think that it's going to be hard for me to be disappointed in this. If nothing else, as a lot of the reviews say, you can feel that everybody in the cast had a good time making this. And in some respects, I think that's really important to convey. It's just, even if this feels like I'm going to a cast reunion live show of Beetlejuice, I'd enjoy that. So we'll be back to report on it. It comes out next week, and I may be seeing it sooner than you think. So we will be back with reactions. Check on our Comic Book Nation and our personal feeds. We'll have reactions to Beetlejuice in the coming week, and we'll be talking about it next week. So stay tuned for that. All right, Matt. Oh, the rest of this show is Matt's. Look at that. I get to relax, buddy. You take over here.
Okay,
Matt,
can you hear me
there?
now?
Yeah. I just threw the whole show to you.
I can't hear anything. That's how this day is going. Hold on. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, boy. All right.
There we go. I got it.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah. My cat ran in here and pulled my cord. So I'm literally like, oh my God, what is your problem?
You need to do something. The amount of times you have claimed, that's 2 times in a podcast that a cat has nearly derailed your entire technical setup. Like, I think you need to build a stronger setup. Like, it should not be a catastrophe every other week.
Okay, well, it's twice. It's twice in the entirety of the show that has worked every other week. So let's get to something that's not so fun to talk about, which is Vince McMahon. I think that's pretty much.
Is that what this is? You put it in the thing, and I didn't bother to check. I was just like, "Oh, this must be some fun Matt animated thing." It's about Vince. No. Oh my God! All right, here we go.
So this is the documentary that we have been talking about. Netflix has been working on this for like a couple years now, and it kept getting like derailed, stopped, whatever, because Vince, kept like, "Hey, I'm going to take back over the company," and "Hey, I'm going to be this and that." So it kept doing. It's finally coming out. But ironically, it's, now it's coming out after everything else has come out about Vince. He's been ousted from WWE, TKO now, it's all of that stuff. So now this is probably going to be one of the more actually, honest, or at least has the potential to be more honest portrayals of, even in the poster, revealing essentially like him using other people as puppets and things like that. Like, that is very clear. It's called Mr. McMahon. It's going to hit September, and it's going to be a 6-part series, September 25th. It is also from Chris Smith, executive producer of Tiger King, and Bill Simmons. So, anyone that group right there, especially on the Simmons side, it's going to be, it has the potential to actually give us some real information and maybe perhaps a real honest look at things now that he is no longer involved. At one point in time, this was more of a partnership. So, that wasn't going to be very honest, mostly in any real way there, especially knowing what we know now. So, that one is definitely one to look out for. We will definitely be covering that here because we've been following that saga for a long time, and so it's crazy to see where things have come. So,
yeah, docuseries are getting crazy. I mean, we're in a week where obviously we're not getting into it on this podcast, but we had the Lacey Peterson Netflix documentary, and then we had that crazy ass Scott Peterson documentary on Peacock, and it was just like a litmus test for how you can do things right and so wrong in a docuseries. And I'm going to be very interested in this one.
Before we move into, because we got a lot of wrestling to get into, but before we move into that, I do want to shout out 2 things that I want to point you guys to, one that is coming soon and one that is already up on the site. This week was actually the 31st anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That makes me feel old. It's crazy to think that like that, that show that came on really had a formative effect on me for so long. And looking back 31 years, there's actually I wrote up a whole kind of not retrospective, but just kind of look at like, where the show originated, also kind of what is going on in the franchise now. We're kind of in a lull as far as like TV and movies and waiting for that whole reboot / next era to start. But there's still a lot of other things happening, both in the comics and gaming and toys and collectibles and things like that. So if you want to check that out, see some cool things, especially if you are a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers fan specifically, check that out. That's on Comic Book right now. A thing that will be coming soon to our YouTube side is a big game, a little game called Star Wars Outlaws is now out this week. And our wonderful...
It's the game I was born to play.
Our wonderful head of video producer / editor / everything else, John, worked on a great video that's going to be coming to our YouTube side all about Star Wars Outlaws, really getting into the meat of it, talking with people. It's something that if you are playing the game right now or going to jump in this weekend, be on the lookout for that, because we're really proud of it. So that'll be coming soon then. And then on the gaming side, and by the way, also on Outlaws, I am playing it right now, so I will have some thoughts probably coming up, maybe next week, maybe the week after, as I get more time into it. But I'll have thoughts on that as well. Nick's also already rules because he can fetch things for you. It's amazing. How am I not going to love an adorable little creature? It actually brings me to a segue. That's a perfect segue to the one game I am going to talk about this week, which is Welcome to Everdell, an adorable, perfect entry point for younger fans. Like if you've got kids and you're trying to kind of introduce them to board games and gaming in general, having something that speaks to, has a kind of that cozy aesthetic, has animals in it. You're essentially, trying to amass. It's really like a set matching game where you're trying to, get a number of like cabins, and that gets you a little style of parade, amount of points, and you're trying to get all of the parades. And by the time the game ends, and it only ends in 4 rounds, it's like a 4-round game. The board and the components and everything are adorable. They have just this like really cute animal aesthetic. Everyone picks their own little animal, right? You have the pigs and you have the owls, which are my personal favorite. And so kids can just like really grab onto that visually. And then when you start to play the game, built into the rules are 2 different variants. There are 2 extra rules that are like, hey, if you have younger kids and you want to make it a little easier to get into right away, you can do that. And so you actually put those in. I tested it out. Look, the age range, it's kind of like, aiming for that 8 and up. Ember is 4.5, and she was playing before the first, 2 rounds. She was already understood, like, okay, this is what I do during a turn. Here's the, the amount of the dice I roll. Here's what those little symbols mean. She was already catching on to that stuff. So for a 4.5-year-old to be able to do that and this kind of game, and Everdell is a huge series. Tabletop Tycoon and Asmodee, this series has the base game and numerous expansions. So like for fans, there have been a lot of longtime fans that love this franchise, but even the core game and stuff has a lot of different mechanics to it that maybe you can't introduce someone who's a little younger or maybe even newer to the hobby. And we have a great interview with some of the people behind the game, the designer and the CEO, president of Tabletop Tycoon on Comic Book, where they really delve into like, we wanted to make a game that you could play with your kids, not a game for kids. And there is a difference, right? And so they really worked to test with a lot of different age ranges and things as they were making the game. So it's just one of those things where like, if you're looking for an entry point, Welcome to Everdell is beautiful. The mechanics are smooth. You can quickly teach it in about 15 to 20 minutes. The game doesn't actually take typically longer than like 25, 35 minutes once you kind of get the rules down and stuff. So you can actually play a game in that kind of time span and not have to commit 3 hours, right? Because that matters for kids. Kids have shorter attention spans. But also adults have a lot of things to do. So it also works for that as well. I just think I couldn't recommend it more. It's also right at Walmart, and it's kind of in that really nice budget price as well. So you won't break the bank on it. You're not going to have to spend $100. I just think it's one of those things that like this hobby needs, and it needs more of, is experiences like this. It's a great fun game. You're playing cards on the board, you're amassing cards. You can, every turn you can do more things with your characters, but it never overwhelms you, and it's done before it wears out its welcome. So to me, I think that's a win across the board. So Welcome to Everdell is something I heartily recommend. You can see a full review on Comic Book probably this weekend. When I'll have a bunch of things in there as well for that, and more details on the gameplay and moment to moments. But it's just something I really think anyone, whether you're new to the hobby or been around for a long time, should pay attention to. So that is my Matt's agenda this week. Let's get into wrestling.
Wait,
Kofi, anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, because I'm going to drop out. We have Haley here. Hey, Haley, what's up?
Hi. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm going to get out of here so you guys can talk wrestling. Matt's going to close the show because, Matt runs several segments of the show. He can close this thing now. You don't need me around. So Matt's going to close you guys out. This will be my sayonara, farewell. I'm out of here. Shout out to everybody in the comment section today. Thank you for tuning in. As always, everybody have a happy Labor Day weekend. Be safe. Have a good time. Relax. I'm going to answer just a couple questions before I get out of here. Just from the live show, because you guys, we love you guys to tune in, and we appreciate you, and we try to get you as quick as we can. Over on YouTube, All in the Game. Yes, Chimp Crazy. We can get into it. The makers of Tiger King are back, baby, with a new kind of documentary about, exotic animal collectors called Chimp Crazy, and it is crazy. By the time you get to the end of episode 3, I mean, all this is real life, but I don't want to know the real life yet. I'm locked into this docuseries. And it's really about these collectors of chimpanzees. It's about a very famous chimpanzee named Tonka, who we all used to watch in the 2000s as one of the most prominent, simian actors out there. It's a great docuseries. It's very much in the vein of Tiger King, where the people talking think they're being genuine and think they're being highlighted and celebrated. But it's the dramatic irony of being like, these people are eccentric at best, crazy and delusional at worst. And like, where is the line of that? So yeah, check that out. It's over on HBO. It airs every week on HBO, and it's on Max. So yeah, it's not a bad one. It's a good time. Are there any other, All in the Game also asked, are there any other actors like Sean Bean and Carrie-Anne Hines who have done both Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings? So if you don't, Sean Bean played, I always forget the name of his character, but he's in Fellowship of the Ring. He's dude who dies. Surprise! Sean Bean dies.
That's always his
yeah, and he also was obviously Ned Stark in Game of Thrones, who, surprise, died too early. Carrie-Anne Hines played Mance Rayder, the leader of the Wildlings. He also now stars as the Dark Wizard in season 2 of Rings of Power. So I think those are the only two we have that have done both sides of the swords and sandal IP thing with Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. But don't call that exact math. But I believe they are the only ones. And finally, Israel Solis over on Facebook. Are the rumors true that Deadpool will no longer be played by Ryan Reynolds in the MCU? That is such a Phase Zero question. I do not know. I do not know.
We'll forward it on over.
Yeah, we'll forward it. Hop on over, slide on over to the Phase Zero Twitter feed or the Phase Zero podcast feed or YouTube page and drop that question there. Those guys know so much more than I do. So go ask Jenna, Jamie Girac, or Aaron Perrine. They'd be happy to field that question. Hell, they may even make a whole episode out of it. So go and I mean, and rightly so. I'd watch that one about couldn't you do Deadpool without Ryan Reynolds after this. But that's it. Those are my fan questions. Everybody have a great Labor Day. Matt, Haley, take it away. Have a great wrestling talk. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in once again to Comic Book Nation. Outlaw out.
Thanks so much, man. Haley, welcome, Haley Miller, everybody. Woo! We need a clap button or an applause button. We'll get one of these days. Let's work on just not having the cat wreck everything, and then we'll get that. Yeah. we'll do that. But yes, me and Haley cover a lot of the wrestling. You've probably seen our names attached to something during the shows and things during the week. And this weekend, actually, this next 2 weekends, this could really be like a double packed thing, but we'll save that for later. But WWE has the spotlight this weekend with 2 events. We have WWE Bash in Berlin on Saturday, and then we have NXT No Mercy on Sunday. We're going to start with Bash in Berlin because, well, it's first. So there, made it easy for me. One of the things I wanted to check in on, because obviously with WWE and any premium live event, you're going to have some kind of involvement with the bloodline. And I wanted to check in on kind of how we feel about kind of the state, especially over the last few weeks. We got, OTC, Roman Reigns came back. We finally got that back and forth between him and Jacob Fatu. There's been so much happening there. Are we going to get, is Roman going to go grab his, original bloodline here? People have been calling for Jey Uso to come in. So we got all that happening. How do you feel about it right now, kind of where it stands? And what do you want to see next, especially how it plays into Bash?
Oh, man. I mean, I wasn't super into the story. I know we've talked about it on a previous show. I don't remember what PLE it was, but we had talked about how Solo was kind of coming into this role, obviously as the new leader of the bloodline, and he's gotten a lot more comfortable in it. But as Jacob has kind of come around, I do feel like, Solo has been overshadowed a little bit, and I still feel that way. But, Jacob was in that boot, but he's not anymore. So that's going to be interesting. Weekend, I'm interested to see how that kind of plays. Will we see, Jacob do something in the ring, or like what's going to happen there? I'm interested with that. But I'm so happy to have Roman back, and I never thought I would say that, because for the longest time I was like, I want Cody as champion. I'm so sick of Roman. Roman needs to go take a break. Goodbye. But now, I'm so sorry I said that. Like, Roman, I missed you so much.
Face Roman. That face Roman pop was so good. And look, I understand that, because as a resident Cody crybaby right here, you can look at me. I wanted Cody in that spot. However, I never was like over Roman. It was just always like, look, it's his time. Like, he needs to be in that spot, because Paul Heyman teased it forever ago, right? Like, we're in like the early parts of that story, and everyone balked at that, because like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, and we've seen that play out, because we're only in, we still have the, reformation of the original bloodline. Do we get main event Jay with Roman? Do we get Jimmy back? Paul Heyman's got to make his return after being put through a table. All of those little moments are going to be huge pops when they happen. And then we're going to get the collision. And then what does that bloodline look like? Because when does that happen? Whenever The Rock comes back, because he was part of that. So there's just so much. I have been probably way over invested in the bloodline saga. I am the person they are marketing to. I'm a huge market in that respect. So I get it. But yeah, I think I've been very impressed, and it was awesome to see Roman come back as a face and get the pop. And I'm not going to lie. I love that I was surprised that he got demolished so quickly, but that is the right decision. Jacob has to look like a monster. That's how it should be. You're going to get that Roman Jacob match at some point. That's going to just kill. I also agree with you. I think Solo has come into his own finally. It took a minute for him to get there. It's hard not to be overshadowed by Jacob. And I think it's smart for them to lean into that a little bit too, of like him making him his own enforcer. I have to show control where I can, because you are just such an imposing, powerful figure. I think that's smart, right? And we could also see them building to Jacob taking that over as well at some point, right? Solo gets kicked out, and then you do get the original 4. We see that. So there's just so many ways to go here. Let's pivot real quick into another storyline that has had all the drama, and it's right here on the screen. Liv and Dom, and now the newly anointed Terra twins, Rhea and Damien. Which one you picking? Who's your favorite of that duo?
I mean, when you talk about things that are for the people. Like, this is for me. Like, the bloodline is for you. This is for me. I love the Judgment Day. I love everything that's going on with it right now. I am Team Terror Twins for the win, but I do think that Dominic and Liv are going to pull out a sneak win here. I think that everybody's kind of underestimating them, especially because people are like, well, like, Damien and Rhea are only two people, but they're kind of taking out the entire Judgment Day. Like, how does that make sense? So I do think that we're going to see Champ Liv and Dom pull the win out here.
Yeah, man. I feel like in Slack, being Nick Valdez have been defending Dominic Mysterio for I don't know, like years years at this point. It's so also gratifying to see, like, he's just so good in this role. Liv has, you know, like, killed it in this role. I cannot say enough about what they've been doing with this collective. And, you know, my boy Finn Balor gets the lead still, right? I'm excited for that. So yes. I will say though, I agree with you. I am Team Rhea and Damien. I like what they're doing with them as a duo. And I think, but I also agree with you in the fact that I think Liv and Dom will get the win, because that is what you should do. To me, that's what you need to do right now. Let's move into, you know, title changes. Look, Cody versus Kevin, that they've actually done a lot with that storyline, even though it kind of started out as like, hey, you're my bro, you get a title shot. That you can only, to me, you can only do so much with that kind of story. But they've mined that for things. They've added drama to, like, is Kevin gonna turn? He always turns on people. Is gonna do it here. So I give him a lot of credit in that respect. But I also look at that and go, I don't see a title change happening. Gunther just started this title reign. So as good as this match is going to be, this match is going to slap with Randy Orton and Gunther. Literally and figuratively. People are going to be, chests are going to be red at the end of this, right? But I don't see a title change happening there. So you kind of look at, go, okay, the one kind of wild card here, well, other than LA Knight and the mystery person. So other than that, which I don't see him losing that either. So really the wild card is the women's tag team titles, because we have Bianca and Jade. We have our girls in the match here versus Unholy Union. And I thought Unholy Union would have lost them last time. They did not. So that showed, okay, they're going to keep the titles on them. So is this the thing that starts the dominoes to where we get the split between Bianca and Jade, or do they reclaim them, or is it an option C? What do you see happening there?
Man, I love both of these teams, and I've really enjoyed Unholy Union. The very limited amount of time that we've had to see them on TV, I've enjoyed them a lot. As much as I would love Jade and Bianca to win here, I still don't think they need them. So I don't think that they're going to win. I think that Unholy Union is going to retain here. I feel like everybody thinks that the titles are going to change hands, but, you know, they have so many things up their sleeves. We've gotten a new member. You know, Jade and Bianca, they have Naomi as well on their side. So I don't know. I feel like this is going to lead to something bigger, and it could maybe that's the downfall of those two.
Right. I just don't know if they get another loss. Again, even if it's the champs, they're just viewed as such a powerhouse that the only way, like,
hard to believe it.
It makes it super hard to believe that, like, they're going to just lose upon straight up skill or power. Like, they have they're so dominant in both of those. You're like, okay, like, how do they they have done a good job with Unholy Union bringing in Blair Davenport, and good for her, by the way. That's been a really good showcase for her. Bring her in, have her mess around with stuff. You could get away with that. I think that would be very on the nose and a bit boring. But I still think you can start to build towards the split and not split them, right? It doesn't need to be an overnight thing. This can be a series of setbacks for them, and then eventually they look at each other and go, or Jade maybe looks at Bianca, or the other way around. I've been pulling for a Bianca NXT heel run she's so good. And because I love her as a face. Like, it's not because I love one over the other. I just haven't seen that in a while. And if you are looking to shock people, a lot of people think Jade will turn because that makes the most sense on paper. She turns heel and she gets to, like, lean into that. But if you really want to shock people, you let Bianca turn, and you really just NXT Bianca, if you haven't gone to watch clips, is unhinged in the best. She's amazing. The attitude, the mannerisms, she's just so good. So I think that's one way to shock. Let's get to the other one though that I want to touch on real quick because it flashed upon the screen. CM Punk versus your boy Drew McIntyre with his bracelet that he takes everywhere, even movie junkets. What do you feel there? I mean, what do you feel like needs to be the most important element coming out of that?
Well, I mean, I feel like Punk is going to win. You know, Drew got that win at SummerSlam, and he kind of took his eye off the ball in that match, Punk did. So I think that in this match, we're going to get kind of that fire that we've been missing. Like, I feel like in the build up to this feud before Punk got cleared, there was so much like animosity between them, and we really saw that. And so their SummerSlam match, I don't want to say it was a letdown, but I was expecting more. So with the strap match, I feel like it's the perfect opportunity. I feel like this feud needed a stipulation. And so I'm so glad that they're doing a strap match. They both have experience in WWE doing strap matches. So I'm excited to kind of see what elements they kind of bring out in this match. But as for the future, like I don't think that things are done between them. I think that this feud will continue, probably to Survivor Series. But, you know, Bad Blood is next month.
It's true.
And I feel like, you know, this is one of the hottest feuds in WWE. It is a blood feud at this point. Like, maybe they do it there. I don't know.
We're going to get that cage match. That's what Triple H likes to do, right? You save the cage for this. This is exactly the rivalry that needs a cage match.
See, yeah, but I also feel that way about Rhea and Liv. Like, I would love to see a women's cage match.
Yes.
I feel like that title rematch would be perfect in a cage.
I 100% agree. We need to see that too. That would be right there. That's your main events to me. That's all you need. You need those two. You go in and you book everything else around it. But those are your two blood rivalry cage matches for Survivor Series. Again, if you want to do that, or if you want to do Bad Blood, that makes sense too. I want to answer just a few questions before we move into NXT. But I look all in the game. I think. Does Jade still need more time working with Bianca, or is she ready to go solo? I think that's why you can build. That's why you can really start to not even sow the seeds because they're already sown, but you can really start to water them, let them grow a little bit as far as the dysfunction between them, because then they can still wrestle together, still get a couple wins here and there, and you're still getting time together for them to showcase and even get better as a team before you then split. So I think that's like the best of both worlds. I don't want them to split overnight. I want that to be a longer thing because it deserves it. That's been a really good storyline. And they've done so much as faces that I don't think anyone expected together. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect first big match or big feud for Jade to sink her teeth into in WWE. So I definitely don't want it to be overnight. I don't think that there's a reason to rush that. And, you know, she's doing a lot of live events and things, getting her reps in. So I'm excited to see her go solo eventually, but I don't want it to be right now. I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah. And distance. Yeah. I think Naomi does. I mean, look, she came back, got worked in there immediately. She's going to play a role in this. I'm intrigued to see how that works. And then also, you know, yeah, shout out to Drew. Drew's been having this has been one of the best years of his career, and dude has lost so much. It just goes to show you don't always have to win, and you don't always need a title to be one of the marquee people on the roster. Like he's one of the biggest draws and stars that they have right now, and dude has been on a severe losing streak. I mean, yes, he won the last one, but that was more about Punk and Seth, to Haley's point, of building that rivalry, which now that one we can't get to soon enough. But that is no shade to Drew. That is just oh my God, I can't wait for that. All right, let's move to NXT. NXT No Mercy is happening on Sunday. This one is another one. If you had asked me 6 months ago to book this card, my card would have looked completely different, because some of these people weren't either featured on the roster or even it would have been a dream for even to see them on NXT TV, nonetheless see them in a title match. But here we go, Ethan Page versus Joe Hendry. I cannot believe this is happening still. Like, there's a part of me that just, we've been spoiled. Roxanne Perez versus Jordan Grace. Now we're getting like All Ego versus Joe. I am, well, and actually that brings me to my first point. So I'm not even going to spoil my first point here. Let's get into the TNA crossover, because we have seen some great. Rosemary popped up this past week, shocking everyone and working with Wendy Chu, which, by the way, I think that's brilliant. That I would not have written that down, but I should have, because that's great. But of course, with Ethan, I don't know how, unless there's just something that like prevents that in, like, you know, outside of booking things. How do you not have Josh Alexander worked in here soon? Because it just writes itself, especially with Hendry involved, because Josh's main rivalry right now, he's got a few, but one of them is Joe, and you can catch a great interview with Josh on the Comic Book Nation YouTube channel. Just saying, just throwing that out there, where he swears that Joe is not winning a title as long as he's there. So I just don't know how we don't get some kind of appearance. But for you, what is the next TNA thing that you want to see? The next person make the jump, either side.
That's so hard. I would love to see Masha in some capacity in NXT. I feel like there's so much she could do there with that roster. And I would just love to see it. I think she's so deserving of a bigger platform. So I would love to see Masha. But yeah, Josh is another person, like, he's the top of my list. Like, would love to see him in NXT at some point. And like you said, maybe it's here. Especially because honestly, Ethan is going to retain. But like, how do we get there? You know what I mean? So I feel like Josh, I need you to show up. I need you to give me my dream match.
Yeah, because that's it's been so cool to see the NXT audience receive Joe so well, and they pop for the TNA stars. I know it's been a little like, what's been great about this partnership is I think that we're actually getting the best of both worlds. NXT's newer talent that hasn't had the chance to maybe shine as much, or is, again, it's a very stacked roster on both sides. So they're going over to TNA. Jordan's been amazing about highlighting them. Tatum Paxley, Izzy Dame. So I like that they're doing that. And then for the TNA stars, like the pops they are getting, Rosemary got a great pop. Jordan Grace got a huge pop. Joe gets one every time he comes out. I just think we're maximizing a lot here. I do want to see a big title match though on a TNA pay-per-view. Yeah. That is the next, to me, that's the next logical space of like, yo, I want to see someone challenge someone over there, like kind of the upper echelon, and let's do a title match that's like a pay-per-view worthy match, because we already had one on the NXT side. Jordan Grace versus Roxanne Perez was banger. So we need the same over there. That's my one thing there. But I want to get into, that's actually a perfect segue, because Roxanne Perez, number one, if you've been paying attention, the Prodigy has been doing some great work as a heel over in NXT over the past year, ever since winning at Stand and Deliver. She will face Jada Parker, which, if you have not been keeping up with Jada Parker, that girl's the truth. Okay. She's got a killer career ahead of her. But the slap segment from this week, if you have not, I've watched that on repeat. That is hilarious. Okay. That is, I'm going to slap the taste out of your mouth. I would like to, and just bam. And just the attitude and the walkout, that is like star written all over her. Right. So this is going to be a great match, but I don't see Roxanne losing. This is too early to me. And I also don't see, there's other people that I think that maybe I could see taking that title and then her moving to main roster. But there's been a lot of discussion about the main roster with Roxanne this week. Booker T and Bully Ray having this back and forth discussions, which were hilarious. And then also Bailey heaping a lot of praise on her. What do you want to see with Roxanne? Do you think, like, would you rather see her have a longer run in NXT as champion? Or do you think, like, if she moves to main roster, when are you pinpointing that?
Man, so that's really hard, because I feel like I love what she's doing in NXT, and I think she has a little bit more time under her belt there. but I have been championing her on the main roster for so long. Like, when she first got signed, I was like, there's no way they don't put her on the main roster first. Now I'm glad they didn't. I'm so glad they put her in NXT.
Yeah.
And let her kind of thrive there so she didn't get lost in the shuffle. But I still feel like right now there's so many women out on injury that will be returning soon. I mean, Charlotte,
Yeah.
Becky's out. Dakota's out.
Yeah.
Asuka's going to come back at some point. So I just feel like right now is maybe not the best time, and it has nothing to do with Roxanne. There's so much incredible talent on the main roster right now that I think we can just hold back a little bit. And, I really want to see that match with Julia, and I really want to see her get in the ring with Stephanie. So some good keeping her in NXT for a little bit so that they can kind of all get there, get settled, and then bring her up, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I think in some ways this has been portrayed as is she ready? And I think that's like asinine. I don't think it's no question. She's been ready. Okay. She could have gone over last year. Yeah. It's not about that at all. But I agree with you. What I do think is that right now in the current landscape, I just think some of the marquee matchups I want to see her still haven't happened yet because of, Julia having previous things that she had to finish up. So she's hopefully they teased it, right? Someone's showing up. We're going to get somebody. It's either going to be Stephanie or it's going to be Julia. I hope at least. So those haven't happened yet because also Stephanie's had visa issues and stuff. So I want to see those happen. So I don't want her to go before then, but then also I think that if we hold it a little bit closer to Rumble, I think she comes out then, and then you kind of use that as all right, let's move into WrestleMania. And then after Stand and Deliver, we bring her in a big way, do the kind of showcase that they did for, Ilya Dragunov. It doesn't have to be at the draft though, but I still just want the kind of, Carmelo, I mean, they even, rolled out the red carpet for a couple people in NXT. And I want them to do that with her too, because she deserves it. So real quick, before we go, I wanted to mention one other thing that I saw pop up here, and I realized I didn't write it in the notes for some reason. The match between the TNA crossover that has the most bad blood in it is actually Rascals, which is Wes Lee versus Zachary Wentz. They have been mining that. I'm amazed they've been going to some of the places they've been going in their promos and things, especially this week, bringing up the release and all that other stuff. That match is going to, if you have not watched the Wes Lee match, number one, you should go and watch any of his old, especially his North American Championship matches. Those have been fantastic. But you should watch one. You should watch this. This is going to be fantastic. Most likely, unless they just crap the bed, which I don't see happening, that this is going to be great. This could be a match of the show between those two. What do you think is the match of the show for you?
Oh, that's so hard. I want to say Roxanne, just because I'm so if Julia comes out, automatically,
yeah,
the moment of the night. But I also feel like Jada, people sleep on her, and I'm excited to see what she pulls out in a position like this. So I'm stoked for her, but I don't know. There's something about Ethan and Joe that I'm also super excited about. So I think that could be that might be a little bit of a sleeper. But honestly, I'm going to go with Wes Lee and Zachary Wentz just because I feel like people really underestimate Zach, and he's pulling out things that I have never seen him do before with this crossover. So I'm excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be killer. There's so much history there, and they've done a really good job of mining that for story, and you believe it now, and it's great. All right, we gotta head out. Thank you guys for everything, for jumping in here and talking wrestling. All in the game. She slapped her in the next week. That was amazing. So good. And yeah, I think I think there's just so much. It's going to be a fun weekend overall, but I think No Mercy is going to be a really fun show. So we will be covering it here full on at Comic Book. So check out all of our coverage there in live in real time. Also, AEW All Out is next week. So Wrestling Train ain't stopping anytime soon. Of course, thank you, Haley, for jumping in and talking wrestling with me. We typically do this in Slack. So it's actually nice to be able to do it when someone's recording it. So this is just our normal thing. One of these days I'll get Nick in here so the trio can really jump in. And shout out to Nick, buddy. He will be covering NXT with me as well. If you are not paying attention to what Comic Book Nation is doing, I implore you to do so. We got lots going on. Anime Initiative is on every Tuesday. Quick Save, our gaming focused podcast, is every single Thursday, and we'll be back next week. Pull List, featuring yours truly, geeking out about comics, is every single Wednesday. And of course, this main show right here is every single Friday. We are on the Comic Book Nation YouTube channel, as well as all of your preferred audio platforms. We also have handling the Marvel side of things. It's a Phase Zero crew on Wednesdays. And then a wild Pokemon has appeared. That's how you have to say it. Is every single Monday. And of course, we have fun things, bonus episodes like Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. So definitely check that out as well. All right. So until next week, keep geeking out. Let us know what you want to hear about, what you're thinking, what your favorite things are, and we will catch you next week. Peace. Deuces.